Well, I'm out today on the fast road, which has been quite neglected recently for a number of reasons. Mostly time. It's awfully windy today. Haven't even looked at the forecast. My wife has just come out of hospital and she's had an emergency operation, so it's been a bit challenging. So while she's having a quick sleep, I thought I would nip out for a quick ride. And I thought I'd talk today briefly about the Edge 1030. I don't know if you can see from this camera angle, so you may not get some really good screenshots or anything. Just briefly my experience with it, because I know it's not a current model anymore, but nevertheless there are still people selling them second hand because they've upgraded to 1040s, and there are actually a couple of good deals on new ones, old stock, which may be worth looking at if you're in the market. I really was interested in things like Climb Pro and live segments when I got it. I upgraded it over the Edge Explore, and some more of the sort of training and fitness information that becomes a bit more important as you get older. So, what do we think of it? Well, I was looking at a 530, but I felt I liked the idea of the touchscreen. So I looked at the 830, and then the 1030 Plus came up in an advert for less money than an 830. Oh, wasn't really any question then. I just got it. It promised to take all my settings. So things like the screens I'd created, the cadence sensors off all of the bikes, heart rate sensor, and just transfer them from the Edge Explorer to the 1030 Plus. But that didn't work. Garmin Connect said, "Oh, I see, with an Edge Explorer, would you like me to transfer everything?" I said yes, but it didn't. So, never mind. Didn't take long to repair them and recreate the screens. I mean, I'm not using it anything like its full capability. And then I discovered that you can't use live segments unless you actually subscribe to Strava. And I've said before that I think Strava have lost their minds and are charging too much. So I didn't do that. But you can use Garmin segments, but only if you're not linked to Strava. So if you get one of these, it's worth bearing in mind, because you think, well, it's fine, I'll just use the Garmin segment, but they're not available. And you scratch your head and one thing and another. Very simple. All you've got to do is disconnect from Strava, and don't worry about all of the scary warnings, because it tells you, oh dear, if you disconnect from Strava, all your data will be lost and one thing and another. But it won't. Disconnect from Strava, go into segments. You can either use other people's segments or create your own. Once you've done that, relink to Strava, and all is well. And you can carry on using the Garmin segments after you've relinked, and that's brilliant. And then live segments come up just by the fact that you're riding. So if you come up to a start of a segment, the segment will come up on the Garmin, and away you go. But bear in mind, every time you create or use someone else's segment, you do have to say send to device on Garmin Connect. It's no good just creating a segment and thinking it would know that. It doesn't. And even if you approach a segment at 90 degrees, so if you're coming up to a segment that's on a road off to the left, it'll come up, tell you a segment's about to start. And then, once you pass it, if you decide not to go that way, it just goes away again. So I find that works really well. Something that is a bit of an anomaly though, is that when you're going slower than your previous time, it'll show a minus. Whereas I would have thought it will show a plus to say you're going plus that many seconds on your previous time. So that takes getting used to. And if it's a segment only you use, then it'll just show you your personal best. If it's a segment that you've copied from Garmin Connect, then it'll show you your personal time at the bottom and the overall time at the top. I've got a headwind. I'm 20 seconds slower today. But it tells you how far you've got to go and all of that sort of thing. Oh, and that's another thing I really like. If you forget to eat or drink, it tells you when you should. And it tells you how many calories you should be eating as well. I find that quite helpful. And Climb Pro is different. Climb Pro works really well because it shows you the gradient and it shows you segments in orange, green, red, depending on how steep that you are on the particular climb. That's pretty good, but it only works if you're navigating a course. So you've got to create a course on Garmin Connect, send it to your unit, and then you say navigation, saved courses, tap on the one you want and start. And then Climb Pro will work. It won't work in free ride mode. And there's a workaround to that too. So I've replicated the Strava segments that are important to me, but I've also created segments for the climbs that I know I'm going to use fairly regularly, and that way when the segment comes up, it doesn't give you the percentage of the gradient, but it does still show you the graphic and how long it's going to be till you get to the end of the segment, which of course is the top of the climb. One of the things I do find annoying with this though is it seemed quite insistent that I set up a training plan. I don't know what days I'm going to be out on the bike or what the weather's going to be like or anything like that. So I accepted the default. It then went and filled up my computer calendar with all these dates and what sort of training we had to do. That was a bit annoying. So every time I go out and I switch it on to go for a ride, it says, do you want to do, I don't know, whatever it's chosen for that day, zone 2 or interval training, and you say no thanks, but it doesn't accept that. It asks you about 5 times. You have to keep saying no. The battery life on this unit is absolutely phenomenal, which is a good and a bad thing, because with the Edge Explore, I kind of got into the habit of charging it every second day. Whereas with this one, it'll just go and go. And that's a good thing. The downside is, because it lasts so long, you don't even think about it. And then you look down and it's got 20% power left, and you think, oh, bloody hell, I hope it's going to last the whole ride. And the screen is really good. I mean, it's a big unit, but in terms of the overall size of a bike, it's not that big. So it's just nice to have the extra screen real estate, be able to get all the information you want. And one thing I will say I have had a problem with is the navigation. It's a problem I didn't have with the Explore, so it's particular to this unit. Nevertheless, I am prepared to accept that it is probably operator error. And when you create a course, you send it to the unit, and it won't give you turn-by-turn directions. And you think, what's going on? And then, because you're not completely sure of where you were going, which is why you created a course, you go the wrong way. And then it comes up and says, off route. And then it starts navigating properly. It took me a while to work it out, but it turns out, the next time I went out, it said next turn in 12 miles. So it's just decided that the first 12 miles have got no turns in. And as I said, I haven't figured that one out yet. If you've got any comments about that, I'd be interested to know. And another problem I did have with it was I went out on a ride and I was following a course, and it was a 25-mile course. So I'm out on this 25-mile course, and after about 13.5 miles, I decided to end the route and save it. And I was like, whoa, hang on. So it took me a while to realise what was going on. Anyway, I restarted it, but it recorded it as 2 separate rides then. Anyway, and it had missed a mile in between. Turns out I'm not the only one who's had that problem. And various people had various reasons why it had happened. And I found the solution for me was to turn off the auto stop start, which is a feature I used to like, because you get riding and you're concentrating on things and the GPS hasn't started. So on the Explorer, I just had it for auto start. start riding, and it starts recording. Perfect. Anyway, so I did that on this one, and that's where the problem started, because I got into an area with poor GPS signal. It had decided I'd stopped, and then it just auto-saved. So I turned that off, and touch wood, I haven't had the same problem again. And in fairness, it does flash the pause button on the screen to tell you you haven't pushed it, to set it to start. It amazes me that on one unit Garmin can get it absolutely right, and on another one absolutely wrong. The main thing I mentioned in the video when I first got the 1030 Plus, the main thing for me was that it stores the data in Garmin Connect, your data. The Karoo Hammerhead stores it in Strava, and Strava charge you for that. And every time you look, Strava has taken away more and more features for the people who don't pay. And how long will it be before Strava is holding your data to ransom? May not happen, I don't know. But it was a concern for me. And anyway, even if you could record all your rides and store them on Strava, another nice feature is it tells you how your fitness levels are, and depending on the type of riding you've done, it tells you how much rest it recommends you have before you go out again. And it measures my breathing. I don't even know how it does that. But it measures your rate of breathing. So it's always a good sign of how well you're doing, if it's been a struggle. Just, you know, lots of little features like that, and how strong you are becomes more important as you get older. So overall, yes, recommended, but with the caveat, at a reasonable price.